I'm quite interested in Hypertufa myself, but when I finished talking to Marla Killian, who has already mastered the art of Hypertufa, and she has also learned how to use it very well with her plant collections and in her gardens. Marla, tell us about what you do here and how you use your Hypertufa.
A lot of the different plantings I do in Hypertufa because Hypertufa is porous and different plants love this material. It drains very well. Succulents and cacti look beautiful planted in them. And you can make all different kinds of things, all different shapes, all different sizes.
Right, and you know, just as an example, when you look at an object, it's just an object, but once you got your mind going, what do you look at to be a possible prospect for using to make these molds?
Well, a lot depends on the size. Maybe you've got a certain plant in mind that you'd like to put in a Hypertufa pot. It can be as creative as you want it to be. A lot of times I will use empty containers, things that you may buy at the dollar store, chip bowls.
Yeah. Okay, we've done that, haven't we? Well, what is the plant, this tall plant that you've utilized, this one over here?
I believe that's a type of a mother of millions. It puts out little seedlets that fall down into the soil or into the rocks that are below.
Yeah, and then I love the square and the plant that you have in it.
And that's a type of sedum, and I also have hens and chicks in there. They like to grow very well.
There's a cute little fella sitting out front. What is this?
That is a gnome, and he is made entirely out of Hypertufa. His body is the mixture itself, and then I used like a yarn to make his little scarf and an old sock dipped in a Hypertufa slurry to form his hat on the top. So you're only limited by your imagination.
You also put these tuck these pots away in the corner of your patios?
I tuck them away everywhere in the garden.
Yeah, and do you find that you have to do much care of these, or do they kind of, because you're using succulents, right?
Right.
You don't really have to worry about the watering and...
No, succulents grow great in them, and if they get too much water, they drain very well.
What are you holding in your hand, Marla?
Well, it's a heart-shaped succulent arrangement, and it's got a hole in the bottom. I used a candy dish, plastic candy dish, to make it, and put a little bit of soil in the bottom.
Yeah.
Succulents are very good for that because they have very short roots. And then I used a chicken grit on top to make the container drain a little bit better.
I've never seen it in the pink. That is very beautiful. It's what I would say about that. Okay, now look at this little fairy garden. You've created something to bring that up too. What did you do there?
Yes, well, trying to think of something that would make great little legs to lift the trough up so that my containers would drain a little more easily, and using yogurt cups filled with Hypertufa mix, you can make and it lifts your pot up. So,
you know, I'm not into fairy gardens, but I could take that any day.
Yes, and they're neat. You can leave them out year round too.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
Hypertufa is great. It won't break if you cure it properly.
Excuse me. Mostly when you plant a Hypertufa, you try to find a plant that is winter hardy.
Right.
Correct. Okay.
I do.
Marla, I do think that you have chosen the right plants in this area for starting off. Is that a little hosta?
Yes, it's a little mouse ears hosta. It's a mini, and it grows really well in those Hypertufa pots.
Okay, and then it's wonderful to see what you've done for the birds. Now that's a nice sized bowl. What did you use for that?
I believe it was just a chip bowl.
Okay, yeah. And then it's a little deep for a bird, so you put a rock in there.
That's right. And just last week I saw a little chickadee perched on the side having himself a drink.
And I can wrap this entire little area here where you have fairy gardens and all. And the begonias, do you find they do well?
Yes, begonias seem to do very well in the Hypertufa. They don't like their feet wet, so the Hypertufa drains well because it is porous, and they seem to thrive in that type of a container.
This whole area where you've incorporated the little fairy gardens, I see, and all the way around the rocks, and leading back into to hear every bit of this, you are able to create a garden because you had these plants planted somewhere else and you brought them all here and congregated them.
That's true. That's true.
And you created a garden.
Right.
And this looks like heuchera, but they're in odd-shaped pot. What was this?
That pot was made using a watermelon cut in half and formed together to form 2 sections of that pot.
Now I have to say the creme de la creme for me of your Hypertufa is right here. Tell us about that.
Okay, well these are Hypertufa globes made using a beach ball and balloons of different sizes.
Yeah.
And so I make more of a thinner Hypertufa and use a yarn to wrap the balls.
Like knitting yarn?
Yes. In fact, those are made with very thick yarn. And then as you pull it through the slurry of Hypertufa, you get off the majority of the mix so that it makes it hardened, and you wrap it around the ball.
And you make this seasonal, don't you?
Yes, in the summer this is yard art, and during the winter at Christmas, before Christmas when I start doing my displays, I use a dowel and I put the graduated balls on top of each other and dress him up with a Santa hat.
You are amazing.
And a scarf. And then in January after Christmas, he becomes a hockey player. So I dress him, I have a little hockey hat that comes down over his head and deck him out with one of my kids' old hockey sticks.
Well, you better watch out. There's a hockey team in Nashville that may be looking for some of these.
Well, Annette, I have one more thing I've got to show you.
Just one more?
Just one more.
Okay, let's go. A beautiful Hypertufa pot that glorifies this wonderful, what is this thing?
I call him the thinker.
Oh.
He's thinking about where he's going to plant that next plant.
Now this is an example of the imagination of Marla. And I've seen it throughout all of your Hypertufa things that you have created and in unexpected places. And you definitely have the top of the market on what to do with Hypertufa in your garden. And I know that if we don't have new Hypertufa fans out there, something is wrong, because you definitely show the advantages of being able to use this medium. It's a medium.
It is a medium.
For planting and use, whether it's even inside or outside your home. And,
right.
And I recommend your techniques to anyone I know.
Well, thank you.
For inspiring garden tours, growing tips, and garden projects, visit our website at volunteergardener.org or on YouTube at the Volunteer Gardener channel, and like us on Facebook.